Welcome once again to Auto Mundial, the weekly home of all the latest motoring news and reviews. In a special Italian episode this week, Maserati celebrates its return to the motor racing stage with a road-going version of its GT2 race car.
We've also got the most adorable city car of 2025 so far.
Plus, Alfa Romeo takes on the Germans in the super saloon trade, but will a fiery heart and the voice of an angel be enough to swing you?
That's all coming up. First though, the news.
Unveiled last year, the Dacia Bigster is the enlarged cousin of the manufacturer's Duster crossover, sporting extra room for passengers. Well, now with the model arriving in dealerships this month, the budget car maker has announced pricing and financing deals for its new largest model. Here in the UK, the mild hybrid TCE 140 model kicks off from £25,000 on the road. PCP financing plans make the Bigster an attractive proposition, starting from £141 per month on a 2-year 4.9% APR deal, following a £6,250 deposit. A 4-year deal offers a £360 deposit and identical monthly payments at 7.9% fixed interest. The more efficient full hybrid 155, on the other hand, starts from £28,000 with a 4-year PCP plan, also available at 7.9% APR for £299 a month after a £4,600 deposit. Whilst orders are open now, the first customer deliveries may still be another few weeks away.
Italy. A land of passion, flavour, excitement and the alluring sound of engines. But it isn't all about blaring 12-cylinder supercars, as what you're riding on board with us right now is an Alfa Romeo Giulia. At its core, this is an attractive, low-slung, compact 4-door family saloon. But in this Quadrifoglio version, it gets a fantastically singing soprano under the bonnet with a Grade A exhaust as its microphone and speaker. The balladeer in question is a twin-turbocharged 2.9-litre V6 that many consider to be related to the Ferrari V8 that powers the likes of the 488 Pista and SF90. Under the Giulia's bonnet, the enchanting unit pumps out a welcome 513 brake horsepower. In other words, enough to rival most supercars of just a few years ago. With its 8-speed automatic transmission, actioned by rather bewildering aluminium paddles beside the steering wheel, the Giulia QV makes for a brilliant driving experience. The rest of the cabin is just as alpha as the paddles, and by that we mean eccentric. Thick leather seats with more bolstering than anyone really needs hug you nice and tight, while a pair of binoculars towards the instrument cluster focuses your attention to what matters: speed and revs. Matching interior carbon decor are the exterior visual tweaks differentiating the Quadrifoglio from its pedestrian commuter-friendly diesel-chugging cousin. These include a more aggressive diffuser, a lip spoiler, small splitter and some bonnet vents. Though the body also gets more muscular wheel arches to house what are a set of chunky tyres. All about theatrics, the Alfa Romeo is perfect for those weekend blasts. But there's no denying that big buckets and carbon trim that you'll be scared to scratch aren't suited to daily life. So why not consider a super saloon with a little more subtlety?
This is the recently unveiled Audi S5, a replacement to the now all-electric S6, and now the sole remaining petrol-burning saloon from the four rings with a songful exhaust, until the rumoured RS5 releases, that is. And from one simple look at this car's more conventional lines, lack of exotic materials and larger dimensions than the Giulia, you can tell that Audi's sporty saloon will be a more usable family car. In fact, both front and rear passengers get greater space to stretch out aboard this German executive. Moreover, you'll not be squashed into a tight bucket seat here, as the S5 gets a far plusher and, dare we say, mundane cabin. But the absence of flair is not only a visual one, as there's no denying the S5's lack of guts versus its Italian rival. Much like the Giulia, the S5 gets a turbocharged V6, though in this particular specification it only equates to around 365 brake horsepower. That's 150 less than the Alfa. Once more, that lack of power also means the Audi isn't as vocal as the baritone Italian. Nevertheless, hybrid tech and all-wheel drive mean this laid-back super saloon is just as sporty in the real world, with a similar circa 4-second 0 to 60 time as the Giulia. However, if you fancy taking your German Audi to the de-restricted roads of Germany, expect a few Alfa Romeos to come roaring past, given the S5's 155 mph electronic limiter. Finally, weighing half a ton less than the Audi, you are sure to have more fun behind the wheel of the saloon that calls Milan home.
So, louder, fancier and faster, it seems a decision is easily made when it comes to the Giulia's chances versus the Audi S5. Well, not really, as for all that extra passion and glamour, you will see yourself emptying your pockets a little more. Facelifted last year, the Alfa Romeo Giulia in top-of-the-range Quadrifoglio specification will set you back a rather shocking £78,000. At £69,000, the Audi is still a very expensive car, but at least you'll have some spare change to fill the tank every now and again.
Sometimes the thrills and spills of a family car souped up to sports car potential with their comfortable seats and mod cons aren't quite enough. To that, we say this. Well, perhaps Porsche says it best, in fact. This is the tune of a 3-litre naturally aspirated flat 6 sending over 500 brake horsepower to the rear wheels of a Porsche 911 GT3. And when it comes to the ultimate driving experience and raw racing appeal, this car does it better than any other. Carbon fibre pretty much everywhere, finely tuned suspension for optimal grip on track, plenty of aerodynamic push to rival the feeling of your favourite race car, and all that in a road-legal package. When the German manufacturer unveiled its refreshed GT3 last year, it's fair to say we were left yearning for a taste. But what if we told you could get all the track car performance and raw sensations of a 911 in a package full of Italian flair, replacing bland German focus?
This is the Maserati GT2 Stradale, and unlike its German rival, this Italian beast is about as eccentric as a dialed-in track car can get. Stradale meaning road in Italian, this is the road-going version of the manufacturer's GT2, the race car resurrecting the Trident's place on the World Motorsport stage. As such, it gets all the racy trickery of the competition model, with a few number plates for decoration. Essentially, taking the MC20 supercar as a base, Maserati has clearly thrown any piece of carbon fibre it can get its hands on at the car. It gets a cutthroat splitter, massive rear wing, aggressive rear diffuser, bonnet louvers and a blacked out rear window, though sadly loses the race car's recognisable roof scoop. We're particular fans of these fuss-free 20-inch forged aluminium wheels with added race-derived centre locks, though we don't like the idea of getting them off by the side of the road after a loss versus one of the UK's many potholes. Inside, it's much more of the same, with race-ready bucket seats sporting Alcantara padding and special harnesses which may hold you in on track, but will make drive-throughs that little more clumsy. Where the standard MC20 gets fancy tech and creature comforts, the Stradale drops it all in the name of saving weight, and it seems that has worked, as this hardcore version drops some 60 kilos from the regular model. In terms of performance, that equates to a 0.08 second improvement in the 0 to 62 dash over the regular MC20, reaching the marker in 2.8 seconds. It will later go on to 200 miles per hour, at which point the massive rear wing helps the car to produce 500 kilograms of downforce. So whilst the Stradale doesn't exactly blow the MC20 out of the water when it comes to sheer power and performance, its 640 brake horsepower and a Tuno V6 only gains 10 brake horsepower. It's on track that the GT2 comes into its own. The additional downforce, plus stickier tyres and smarter electronics, all mean this car will shave full seconds off your lap time around most circuits. So if you're looking to become top dog at your local track day, you might want to consider this Italian alternative to Germany's GT3. But considering the Italian and actually making the leap are two different things, as hitting the market from £340,000, the Maserati is nothing if not a costly beast, especially versus the Porsche 911 GT3's £157,000 starting price. Only 914 Maserati GT2 Stradales will ever leave the factory, with deliveries just starting now.
After the break, ever fancied buying yourself a Le Mans winning race car? Well, now you can.
Welcome back. Coming up, if the Ferrari Roma is a bit too tame for you, how about this?
Maserati, Lamborghini, Ferrari, and even sometimes Alfa Romeo. To say Italy has a knack for passionate supercars would be an understatement. But a nation full of people in need of something a little more down to earth, Europe's boot also has a long lineage of econo boxes. So how does its latest one fare? This is the Fiat Grande Panda, a diminutive all-electric city car using retro styling to, hopefully, attract the masses towards electrification. Now, where have we heard that before? We'll stick with the Panda for now though, because take one look at this cute design and you'll notice an air of 1980s Mark I, especially in its popular 4x4 specification. From the model's tall, boxy stance to its bolstered plastic bumpers and futuristic yet oddly old-school fascia, everything screams retro to the point of presenting like a concept car. And you could make the same conceptual comparisons with the cabin, getting a very eye-catching dashboard layout and a twin glove box design throwing back to the Panda's ancestor. Though the new model is far from as featureless as the original, with a pair of 10-inch screens sitting nicely on the dashboard, a plethora of USB charging ports and a whole host of driver assists. Though at its core, the Grande Panda is a simplistic car, as evidenced by the steel wheels on this red trim level model. For something a little fancier, the La Prima trim level adds alloys, bamboo interior trim and nicer fabrics. In either case, the Italian Econobox is available in either all-electric or hybrid specification. The former gets a 44 kilowatt-hour battery powering a 113 brake horsepower electric motor, the whole thing good for just under 200 miles. In hybrid guise, it gets a 100 bhp from a 1.3 litre 3-pot with additional 48-volt hybrid system.
So, now back to that other market favourite, wrapping modern tech in a retro package. Yes, we do mention the Renault 5 rather frequently, and that is because it marks an important moment in EV uptake, with consumers focusing on the model's overall appeal, rather than turning away from electric technology. So if the Fiat wants a piece of the retro EV pie, there is one clear rival it will have to contend with. Albeit with bulkier dimensions, the new Renault 5 gets very similar styling to the first of its name. From the overall shape to smaller details like the headlights and little indents in the body. Evidently a lot of work has gone into the French model's cabin, filled with nice trim pieces, decorated with lots of soft-touch fabric and sporting very little cheap plastic. The pair of 10-inch screens run on Google's infotainment software, a system we have come to enjoy using, and space for both front and rear passengers is plentiful in our experience. That being said, at just 277 litres, the 5's boot will swallow 2 fewer carry-on bags versus the Fiat. In fact, where the Renault gets a compartment under the boot floor for storing charging cables and tools, the Panda does not, instead cleverly integrating cables into the front end. You may not notice the difference during your weekly shop, but it is something to consider on airport trips. Unlike the Panda, Renault's Retro Ride is not available in hybrid spec, only getting EV versions. Available in either 120 or 150 brake horsepower declinations, and with either 40 or 52 kilowatt-hour batteries, the 5 gets a maximum range of 248 miles, some 48 more than the Grande Panda's EV version. It's this focus on all-electric driving that places the Renault at a higher price point than the Fiat, starting from £23,000. For an Econobox with Italian flavouring, however, you can get your hands on the Fiat from £19,000, and even in electric specification, it is available from £21,000.
The sun is shining, the birds are chirping, we're now officially into the month of April. To many, that signals the run-up to Easter egg hunts and the early signs of summer on the horizon. To us, however, that means the arrival of European legs in the FIA World Championships, none less so than the World Endurance Championship, which will take to Imola in Italy later this month. Among the favourites in the top hypercar class last year's event will be Ferrari with its 499P. Yes, the same Ferrari that has claimed top owners in the previous 2 runnings of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. Racing in one of the most competitive series on the world stage, the 499P beat out rivals from Porsche, Alpine, Cadillac, Toyota and much more. Now you may be wondering why we're talking about a winning Le Mans car on a show dedicated to news and consumer advice. Well, there is one more level to the Italian automotive market that we're yet to touch on in this special episode. If you manage to get far enough into the Ferrari good books and buy enough regular prancing horse models that you don't really want, the manufacturer will invite you to give them more of your hard-earned money for one of these.
Dubbed the 499P Modificata, it's essentially a Le Mans winning hypercar with any sense of restrictions thrown out of the window. Where the pedestrian race winner gets a 670 brake horsepower from a 3-litre twin-turbo V6 and hybrid system, this production model beefs up both elements for a boosted 858 ponies going to all 4 wheels. The competitive model is also bound by smothering aerodynamic guidelines, something this car needn't care about making for a more streamlined design. So, while the Italian manufacturer isn't exclaiming numbers from the rooftops, you should expect significantly higher top speeds than the racer's record 213 miles per hour achieved on the Mulsanne Straight at Le Mans. As if more power and less drag wasn't enough, this car also gets a different tyre to the endurance-ready compound featuring on the racing model, so you could expect even greater grip in the corners. Though having never driven the race car at Le Mans, we can't quite confirm that bold statement. So how much does this bonkers racer cost, you might ask? Well, after spending a fortune on a collection of Romas and 296 GTBs in order to secure your allocation, this 499p Modificata will set you back a further £4.6 million. That would be all well and good if this Le Mans racer were transformed to road-going specification, but you'll need a closed circuit to run this particular Ferrari, and worse still, the manufacturer won't let you run it anywhere. In fact, Ferrari will keep your car for you in its own garage and only invite you to drive it at select Ferrari-only events called Course Clienti. So, with that in mind, might we suggest a more usable prancing horse?
Next time on Auto Mundial, BMW unveils the future of the M3. 2-ton weight, LED wheels and all.